Have any other millennials in their 30s just woken up one day and realized that this was not the life that they were meant to live?
I don't have my will to live anymore.
Being alive is expensive, and I feel like I'm finding myself questioning often, what is the point of being alive if I can't afford to live?
And what if I said that my soul is tired and I no longer want to participate?
I feel broken. I feel like I've lost all motivation to live and to try to achieve things because I really don't feel like it matters. And I feel like all of this is a filthy scheme and trick.
I feel lonely as fuck because all I have the energy to do is go to work and go home and go to bed.
I've only been alive for less than 3 decades, and I've already lost almost all will to live and passion and drive.
I want to know what the light at the end of the tunnel is, other than maybe a measly 7 days of PTO.
I don't blame American young workers quiet quitting, because what are we even working for? We can't afford families. Are we just working to bomb Middle East better? Pay for Elon Musk's child support? Make Jeff Bezos' wife's face slightly more frozen?
You just heard from several young Americans who are open about the fact that late-stage capitalism has completely stripped them of their will to live. And I just find it so sad that you can even sense how all of the energy and life force has been sucked out of them, because slaving away for a corporation has basically become the totality of their existence, and it's very clearly taking a toll on them. There's no time for friends or hobbies, and when you finally do have days off, you're too tired to do anything because you've been working so hard, and even though you spend most of your waking days working, you're still only barely able to just get by if you're lucky. It's a rough life to live, and after a certain amount of time, human beings begin to break down under this ruthless, monotonous system because we're not supposed to be living like this. We're more than just cogs in a machine, but when we're treated as nothing more than a means to an end for rich people, only to be discarded when our usefulness is up, it really starts to get to you. Some people internalize it and they question whether or not something's wrong with them, or if they're doing something wrong, or if they're responsible for their own suffering. Others, they know that it's not their fault, but they still feel hopeless because what can they do about it? Now, the thing that's so sad about the people that we heard from in particular is that they're all so young. I mean, this is not something I would wish on anyone, regardless of their age, but they're so young, they're in the primes of their lives, and they should be enjoying their lives. But they can't, because the system that was forced on them before they were born requires them to be as productive as possible at all times so they can survive, even though they're never, ever going to see the fruits of their labor. And there's a difference between working to live and living to work. And it's gotten to the point where people really are just living to work. And if their bodies end up breaking down at some point from all of this work that they're doing, it's easier for corporations to just replace them with different low-wage workers, which is why they don't bother to invest in their employees' health and offer them health insurance, because corporations realize that turnover is actually better for them, because fostering loyalty with long-term employees is actually less cost-efficient. Employees with seniority, they're eventually going to expect to climb the corporate ladder and ask for a raise if they've been with the company for long enough, whereas new workers, they're just going to be happy to have a job at all after they've been searching for months. So when you have a system that treats human beings like they're disposable, it's no wonder why so many people feel completely hopeless. And I want to play some extended portions of those videos that you saw, of some of them at least. And even though they're heartbreaking, I think that these stories are important because it's important to keep in mind these are no longer exceptions. These stories are the norm.
I go to 2 out of my 3 jobs today. Not today, but this weekend. I work overnight today, and then tomorrow morning I'll come home, get a couple hours of sleep. I'll go to one of my jobs, and then once I clock out of that job, I'll be going straight to another overnight shift. And I hardly want to go because it's so clear that I can't even obviously cover my fucking necessities, and I just
The annoying part is that I did everything right. I did everything I was supposed to do. I studied in high school. I got good grades. I had a decent ACT. I filled out the little FAFSA form so I could go to a good college. I went to a good college. When I got into that good college, I got a degree, a useful degree that I knew would benefit me in the long run. I got a degree in business, finance specifically. Businesses are always needing that. Can't go wrong with that. Well, now it's 2026 and I met with a job market that even if there are openings, they're probably not legitimate. They're ghost postings. And if you do want to apply to it, guess what? Everybody and their brother also applied to it. So you better make sure you have an ATS optimized resume, you know the CEO's brother, you've done a handshake with the Crossroads demons, and you pray to the almighty God that you can even get a call back or so much as a rejection email, because half the time you don't even get that. And then let's say that you're lucky enough to actually get that job. Well, the odds of you actually being able to keep that job, not very likely, because companies are inevitably going to lay you off because they're going to realize that AI can take your job, or they're going to send your position overseas and pay them about a third of what they have to pay you. What they do pay you is absolute peanuts for the degree and experience that you have. Afford houses, we can't afford gas to put in our car, inflation is ever rising, interest rates are rising, we have an administration that doesn't give a fuck about us. The American dream is fucking dead. There is no light at the end of the tunnel. There is no amount of hard work that is going to reverse what the last 10 years of this fucking economy has done. I am a hard worker. I'm one of the hardest workers you will ever meet. I will work my absolute dick into the dirt. I have a full-time corporate job. I do pet sitting on the side, and I also have my own business where I do photography, videography, and media. Guess what? It's still not enough. It's never gonna fucking be enough. I'm just so sick. I'm so burnt out, and I don't know what the long-term solution is, because the thought of having to do this for the next 40 years.
Watching the way that our world leaders and the economy and generational wealth being hoarded by the top 10%. What if I say that I don't want to take part in a system that is ultimately not for humanity?
So devastating stories all around, yet relatable, because we've all been in that position or are still in that position, and it just sucks. You feel like there's nothing you can do. You feel like you're trapped. And I think that last comment is a thought that we've all had. What if we just quit, even though we know that we can, because this capitalist system was imposed on us without our consent. And the problem is that there's no way to check out of this system if we actually want to survive. So we're locked in and we're forced to swim as hard and as fast as we can if we don't want to drown. And even if you do what you're supposed to do, you go to college, you get good grades in school so you can get some scholarships, you try to find work that is tailored to your degree. Even if you don't have a degree, but you went for a trade or you're just a good worker, it doesn't matter. Nobody is going to come into the system without getting chewed up and spit back out. And even though as individuals we have to subject ourselves to perpetual exploitation basically to survive, having this system is indeed a choice. And I think that is an important thing to say. The powers that be have decided that pure, unadulterated capitalism, where you put profits above people, is necessary in order to produce endless wealth for oligarchs. It is their choice to create a system and perpetuate a system that functions this way. And the reason why they're prioritizing the wants of the few over the needs of the many is because democracy, much like everything else these days, has become another commodified venture for rich people. And think about why that is. Why nothing seems to change in this stage in our system. Our system, from the start, it incentivized greed and endless growth. Corporations, they don't just slow down once they become mega corporations and gobble up all of the competition. They then have to find different ways to increase profits year after year after they've already become monopolies. So what do? They might start to cut labor and benefits for employees. They begin to get into politics to lobby politicians for tax cuts and to slash regulations so that way they can cut corners to save even more money and increase profits. But in order to influence politicians to make these changes, they have to make sure that they grease the wheels of the system itself and take over democracy by basically drowning out everyone else's voices so that way they get what they want and we don't. But before you know it, after this takes place for so long with Citizens United, starting with Buckley v. Vallejo, elections and democracy, they're no longer elections. They're no longer what we'd think of as democracy. They're just nothing more than profitable ventures, just like everything else. Investing in politicians might actually yield higher returns for oligarchs than the stock market. And before you know it, what was once a democracy is nothing more than a glorified competition between oligarchs to see which puppets are going to get elected. I mean, look at this study. It shows why politicians aren't even doing the bare minimum to alleviate our suffering. This was published in 2014 by Princeton, and doctors Gillens and Page found that regular Americans have a statistically insignificant impact on policy outcomes, whereas economic elites and special interests, they get the policies that they want enacted into law. And the reason why this is the case is because politicians no longer need to serve us to get elected, because we're no longer their core constituents. Oligarchs are. Your $5 donation pales in comparison to the $1 million check that a billionaire cut for your senator's super PAC. We have allowed unlimited sums of money into politics, and democracy no longer is a game for the working man. It's a game for elites, and quite frankly, politicians need oligarchs more than they need us, which is why they don't give a fuck about our suffering, why they don't listen to our demands and even protests anymore. Not that that really made that big of a difference anyway, but they very clearly don't give a fuck about what we want. They don't care about our suffering. But I mean, this is the end result of all capitalist systems. It's not a fluke. And sure, I mean, you can theoretically enact laws and, try to insulate our political system from this kind of corruption to this degree. But at some point in time, the capitalist vultures are going to attack democratic institutions like a virus and eat away at those protections until there's nothing left, because a system built on greed is fundamentally incapable of serving all of society. And it's gotten so bad that politicians don't even throw us crumbs any longer just to keep us satisfied, to stop us from, rising up with the pitchforks, because they're just no longer interested in convincing us that we're anything more than just cogs in the machine. Trump virtually admitted this recently when he said that we can't have nice things because we have to use the money that we could be using for nice things to kill people.
But it's not possible for us to take care of daycare, Medicaid, Medicare, all these individual things. They can do it on a state basis. You can't do it on a federal. We have to take care of one thing, military protection. We have to guard the country.
That clip is a month old, and I still can't get over it. He's saying the quiet part loud. He's admitting we're not invested in taking care of our own people because that's not what the purpose of government is these days. The purpose of our government is to enrich defense contractors and give multi-billion-dollar companies subsidies so they can make money off of public services once provided to people by the government. Like, why have NASA when we have SpaceX and Blue Origin or whatever Jeff Bezos' space shit is? I mean, the entire purpose of government these days is to make sure that businesses can make as much money as possible, even if it's to the detriment of everybody else. And it's especially crucial for them to make as much money now while they still can, because I think they all know that we are indeed in the final stages of capitalism, and it is indeed on the verge of collapse. Because they've bled people so dry that there's really nothing left for them to take from us. It's like getting blood from tulips at this point. They've taken so much from people that people can't even buy the things that capitalists want them to buy, the things that keep society going, not even the necessities. Wealth is so concentrated in so few hands that the entire fucking system is starting to eat itself. And that's what we're watching unfold right now in real time. But the good news is that young people are very much aware of why things are so bad. Sure, some people blame themselves because they've internalized the propaganda that's been fed to them since they were children. Some people blame immigrants and trans people. But for the most part, I think that most people these days see the system for what it is.
I think that's what pisses me off the most about the political state of America is that I want them to just straight up say hey, we're evil. Hey, the reason why everything's so expensive is because we don't want y'all to be able to afford to stay alive. We're even increasing the price of sustenance, like food and shelter, because we don't want y'all to stay alive. We've literally made it illegal to be homeless because we want y'all to kill yourselves. We don't want y'all to stay alive. Please die. Please stop asking us to make everything affordable. We want y'all to starve to death. I want them to just say that, because this game of bootstraps, fucking lazy, entitled Gen Z, or the way older generations refuse to take any accountability for the life that Gen Z now has to live, and will instead jump through hoops to gaslight millennials and Gen Z into being actually, you all have it way easier than we did. So we have no idea what y'all are complaining about. When I was your age, I paid off my house and my car just being the milkman. Y'all just refused to go get jobs. Oh, jobs don't pay a livable.
We live in a society where you quite literally have to pay to survive. Everything that you need to survive is behind a paywall. Clean air, fresh water, food, shelter, healthcare, etc. All of your basic needs are blocked behind a paywall. You are dropped into this system without your consent, and there is no way out of it unless you are independently wealthy. And if you are independently wealthy at the degree to which you would be able to circumvent capitalism, that means that you exploited so many other people that now you are able to live off of your exploitation, which is a problem within itself. Which then brings me back to where most people fall. So then you're stuck working for 30, 40 years of your life just to afford these basic things. And then the things that you would think would be prioritized, like community or friends or family or pursuing your hobbies or interests, you can't do those because you're too busy trying to figure out quite literally where your next meal is going to come from. And then this just continues until you get so sick or so sad or a combination of the two or more things that you die.
Let me tell you this real quick, baby. You're not falling behind. You're not failing. You're not fucking losing yourself. The world is not supposed to be like this. The world is not supposed to fucking be like this. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not depressed and anxious. Like, maybe you have all those things, but it's not your fault. It's not your fault why you're depressed. It's not your fault why you're anxious. It's not your fault why you struggle to get out of bed. It's not your fault why you choose isolation. It's not your fault why you're so angry and frustrated all the time. And I need you to understand that. Don't beat yourself up because you're falling behind. You're not falling behind. The world is falling behind. We're not supposed to fucking be like this.
Yeah. So I know it's not that satisfying to point this out, but it is really worth stating that we have come a long way, because seeing people say this, seeing so many people criticize capitalism explicitly, this was not something that you would ever see 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, because God forbid you attack capitalism and then get accused of being a communist or a socialist. But these days, everybody can see the problem because it's staring us right in the face. You can't avoid it. And I think that seeing them say that is really validating, because even though our intuition tells us that things really shouldn't be this way and that this is wrong, it's easy to at least subconsciously accept that this is our fate. It's going to be this way forever because the system is so ossified. But regardless of how hard it is to change the system, the fact of the matter is that living this way is still a choice at the end of the day. It's not our choice, but it is a choice made for us before we were born by powerful people, but it's still a choice nonetheless, a choice that can be undone. Capitalism isn't some law of nature. It's a system created by humankind. So we're clever enough, I think, to come up with something better. But the oligarchs have actually deluded themselves into thinking that we really are going to live like this forever. We're just going to suck it up and take it forever, because they honestly believe that, they need to train the peasants, I guess, to tone down their hatred of the ultra wealthy and just accept that it's their fate to be a permanent underclass, so that way, just a handful of people can live like kings, because, they think that we're not ever going to change the system because we don't have power and they do. But I think that every time they open their mouths, they fuel people's desire to want to change the system. For example, billionaire Stephen Roth actually had the audacity to tell investors, quote, "I must say that I consider the phrase tax the rich, when spit out with anger and contempt by politicians both here and across the country, to be just as hateful as some disgusting racial slurs and even the phrase from the river to the sea." Oh, is that so? Because God forbid you pay your fair share after the peasants foot the bill for taxes for you for decades. But I want them to keep talking, honestly. I want them to keep talking, because they've already pissed off the entire country by robbing us blind to the tune of trillions of dollars since 1975. And now they're basically spitting in our faces because we're upset about the fact that they have it all and the rest of us have nothing. People wouldn't talk about eating the rich or taxing the rich if things were going well. They wouldn't notice how many billionaires there are. It's 900 in America and 3,000 across the world, give or take. But if people could at least get by, nobody would be talking about a more equitable distribution of wealth, because, even though it'd be nice to have more money, if you're doing okay, you're not going to think about these things. You're not going to think about changing the system if the system is working for you, at least to a certain extent. But to compare tax the rich to racial slurs, the fucking gall of this piece of shit. He's not just satisfied with you slaving away for his class until you die, he wants you to be happy about it and refrain from using offensive slogans when talking about billionaires as if they're marginalized minorities. And I think that this sentiment by this one billionaire really is a microcosm of the hubris that we see from the rest of the ruling class. There's that infamous clip from, I think, a CNBC program of that billionaire crying in response to questions about a wealth tax because he just said it was not right. So these people, they have worked their employees to the bone. They've robbed the working class blind, and they've taken everything from us. And yet they have the audacity to come out in public and say, actually, we're the victims. I mean, it's like they're fucking trying to get pitchfork mobs to come after them. But at the end of the day, people are only going to take so much until they break. Some of them are going to check out and just be dejected, but others, they're going to take a different approach. They're going to want to burn the fucking system down, and they're going to start thinking of ways that they can overthrow the system that's exploiting them. And we've talked about the revolutionary fervor that's been bubbling up in this country before, but that obviously hasn't dissipated. Human beings have a desire and a right to be free, and when you take away their freedom, they're only going to tolerate it for so long until they rebel and try to break the chains.
Fuck it, no one else will say it, so I will. My name is Hunter Howell, and it is time to abolish our government. And before I'm arrested for saying that, I need to give a source. My source, the Declaration of Independence. Word for word, here's what it says. In the Declaration of Independence, when a government becomes destructive to the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, it is the right and duty of the people to alter or abolish it. I'm going to give 3 very clear and concise examples of how our government has become destructive to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Life, bombing Iranian civilians. That's pretty destructive to the right of life. Liberty. Gen Z is no longer able to buy homes or find jobs. My generation. Can't even imagine how hard it'll be for the younger generations than myself. In pursuit of happiness. No justice for the survivors of sex trafficking, the Epstein survivors, the heroes that endured all of that from the abuse of predators. In fact, not only is there no justice for them, there was concealing and protection for the predators. So damn it, that's my source. Declaration of Independence says that it's up to us, the people, to abolish our government. And I'm not going to sit around much longer.
And listen, to the chagrin of the oligarchs, that sentiment is so much more widespread than they want to believe. Because it really does feel like we've reached the point of no return and we have no choice but to just overthrow the system. They have pushed people to the brink and they're now seeing the chickens come home to roost. And I'm not saying people are going to, rise up and overthrow the government, but you have to understand that people are thinking this way because there are so many ongoing crises that our current system is just incapable of addressing. And if we ever did get the sweeping systemic changes that we desperately need, it's only a matter of time before it all get undone by the same capitalist vultures that undid the New Deal reforms that we needed. Because again, capitalism is a virus and it plagues our nation. And until you remove the virus, things are always going to end up in the same spot. Late stage capitalism, where we are slaving away for large multinational corporations until we die. So this is why so many people are yearning for more than short-term solutions, because anything short of sweeping systemic reform just obviously isn't going to cut it. Sure, healthcare and a living wage would help. I think that might satiate a little bit of the anger, but when you step back and you just look at all of the problems that we're facing, climate change, just everything, the debt crisis, student loans, there's just simply no way to logistically address all of these problems in a piecemeal way within the confines of our current capitalist system. It makes more sense to just tear the whole fucking thing down and start from scratch. That's why people are thinking this way. But as hard as it is to facilitate change, step number 1 is a collective awakening. And we are unquestionably experiencing that right now, which does give me at least a little bit of hope. So we'll end on that note where things are positive and not so doom and gloom.